In 1984, the U.S. Navy built a ship that officially didn't exist. It was an angular, matte black ghost designed to swallow radar waves, tested only in the dead of night. Then, it vanished. 30 years later, a salvager climbing through a foggy naval boneyard finds it chained among rusting wrecks. The secret stealth ship wasn't just abandoned, it was hidden. And what this man and a naval architect discovered buried in its silent booting systems rewrites the entire history of the Sea Shadow. To the world, the Sea Shadow was a dead experiment, built in secret, tested in darkness, then sold for scrap in 2012. But when salvager Eric found its matte black hull chained in a naval boneyard, the ship wasn't dead. A faint hum came from the control room. A single screen glowed with encrypted status logs. Someone or something had kept it alive for decades. This is the story of what that ghost was hiding. Eric had been pulling salvage from naval graveyards for 15 years. He knew every class of vessel the Navy threw away, but he had never seen a hull that ate the light. The Sea Shadow sat low in the water, a faceted black diamond, its radar-deflecting angles still sharp after decades of neglect. The Navy swore it was destroyed in 2012. Yet here it was, whole, moored behind rows of rusted destroyers. And from the sealed bridge, a faint green glow pulsed once every 10 seconds. He climbed its angled skin, boots slipping on salt-crusted composite. The hatches were welded shut, but a maintenance panel near the stern had been pried open, recently. Inside, he found a nest of cables and a single touchscreen, still powered. It displayed a lockout warning and one word in block letters: Tacit Blue. That was the code name for a stealth aircraft program, not a ship. Eric called the only person he knew who might decode it, Cynthia, a naval architect who had spent years studying declassified Skunk Works files. She arrived with a hardened laptop and a look of disbelief. Together, they traced the ship's data bus to a buried node deep inside the hull, a black box recorder that had been overwriting itself every 72 hours. The last entry wasn't from 1993. It was 3 days old. And it contained a satellite uplink handshake. The ghost wasn't abandoned. It was still reporting. Cynthia didn't sleep for 48 hours. She sat cross-legged on the deck of that ghost ship with her laptop tethered to the black box node, her face lit only by the green glow of the status screen. The satellite handshake she found wasn't a generic ping. It was a templated burst transmission using a military cipher called Skydancer, last known to be used by a defense contractor named Meridian Solutions. Meridian Solutions was the company that assured the Navy the Sea Shadow had been completely dismantled in 2012. Eric leaned over her shoulder. So they lied. They kept it intact. Worse, Cynthia whispered. They kept it operational. She scrolled through the raw binary and pointed to a timestamp string buried in the metadata. The transmission wasn't just reporting a dormant status. It was an acknowledgement signal for a received command. And the command had been sent 10 minutes before they climbed aboard. Someone knew they were there. The logs revealed a timeline nobody was meant to see. The ship's core computer had been overwritten repeatedly, but fragments of earlier mission cycles survived in a backup partition. Eric and Cynthia pieced them together. In 2003, the Sea Shadow was supposedly sitting idle at the Suisun Bay Reserve Fleet. But the internal logs showed the vessel was quietly reactivated without a crew, running autonomous tests for a naval research lab, seakeeping trials in Sea State 5, radar cross-section recalibrations. Then, in 2009, it vanished from all public records and was relocated to this boneyard under a false manifest listing it as hull scrap, non-hazardous. But the ship never stopped working. The Swath twin hulls were ballasted to keep it stable. The twin diesels were kept warm by a trickle charge from a shore power cable hidden beneath the dock. And every 72 hours, the onboard computer ran a full diagnostic, compressed the data, and waited for a Skydancer handshake. If no handshake came, it simply stored the data locally. When a handshake did come, like the one 10 minutes ago, it uploaded everything and listened for new orders. Eric grabbed a flashlight and traced the shore power line. It didn't connect to the boneyard's grid. It ran into a sealed junction box on a private pier, one that wasn't on any map. The power meter was still spinning. Somebody was paying an electric bill for a ghost ship and had been doing so for over a decade. Cynthia dug deeper into the backup partition. She found something that made her hands shake, a manifest for a mission that was never approved by Congress, never logged in any public naval archive. In early 2010, the Sea Shadow had been quietly towed out to the Pacific Test Range under cover of darkness, equipped with a new radar-absorbing skin and used as a target for a next-generation missile seeker. The ship was not a weapon. It was a permanent test asset, hidden in plain sight because nobody looks twice at a rusting hull in a graveyard. But here's the thing that changed everything. The power draw was increasing. The ship's automated systems, which had run silently for years, had detected the intrusion and triggered a cascade of wake-up protocols. Bilge pumps activated. Navigation gyroscopes spun up. The encrypted status screen changed from tacit blue to a single, chilling line. See trial protocol authorized. Ready in 12 minutes, Cynthia looked at Eric. It's not waiting for us, it's waiting for someone else. Before Eric could answer, a new transmission came through the Skydancer link. It was not a query this time, it was an order, and it was addressed to the ship's helm control unit. The message read, "Standby mooring release, personnel inbound." Outside the hull, a foghorn sounded from the channel. A vessel was approaching. Eric killed the work lights. He and Cynthia were no longer salvagers trespassing on a forgotten wreck. They were intruders on an active military asset that was about to be remotely activated. If they stayed, they'd be caught. If they left, they'd never know what the ship was really designed to do. And if they tried to stop whatever was coming, they'd be going up against a program that had been hiding in plain sight for 20 years, with nobody to call for help. Eric pulled Cynthia into the narrow companionway behind the helm console. The foghorn sounded again, closer now. Through the salt-streaked porthole, they watched a black, rigid-hull inflatable boat cut through the mist, running with no lights. 4 men in tactical gear stepped onto the dock. 2 carried breaching tools. One had a military-grade tablet, its screen glowing with the same Skydancer cipher Cynthia had been decoding for hours. They weren't Navy. No insignia, no uniforms, just matte black fatigues and suppressed sidearms. The lead man pressed a code into the hull's maintenance panel. The sealed hatch they'd spent an hour prying open hissed unlocked from the inside. These men had the keys. Cynthia's fingers flew across the keyboard. She had tapped into the ship's closed-circuit camera network, a system originally built to reduce crew size. Grainy feeds flickered onto her screen. The men were moving through the lower deck, straight toward the central server node, the same node they'd been pulling data from. If they reached it, they'd find the intrusion logs. They'd know someone was aboard. Then the lead man stopped at a bulkhead panel and inserted a hardware key. A new message appeared on Cynthia's terminal. Remote wipe initiated. Full partition purge. Time to completion 90 seconds. A full purge. Everything they'd found, the hidden missions, the uplink records, the evidence that this ship had been secretly active for 20 years would be erased. And the men would find 2 trespassers on an unpardonable secret. Eric didn't hesitate. He grabbed a fire extinguisher and launched it down the stairwell. It clanged off the metal steps, echoing through the hull. The men spun, weapons raised. "We have noise upper deck," one of them said into a throat mic. They split into 2 pairs, ascending the ladder with methodical precision. "Buy me 60 seconds," Cynthia whispered. She opened a hidden subdirectory she hadn't dared explore yet, a partition labeled Project Sumerian. The wipe hadn't reached it. She initiated a high-speed mass dump to her laptop. Eric knew the ship's guts better than anyone. He'd spent the last 2 days tracing every cable run, every ballast valve. He crawled aft and manually triggered a bilge alarm, a high-pitched shriek and a burst of spray from a cracked seawater line. The tactical team leader cursed. "Engineering casualty. Pinpoint rupture, port side. We need to contain it before we lose power to the node." The men diverted. 80 seconds gone. 20 left before the purge hit the Sumerian files. Cynthia watched the progress bar crawl. 5%, 10%. The purge was faster. The terminal beeped. Secondary partition locked. Wipe in 5 seconds. She slammed the keyboard, forcing a root override that fried the node's operating system mid-cycle. The screen went dark. The purge stopped. She had everything. But they just announced their presence. The tactical team's tablet would show a hard failure. They'd trace it. They had minutes, maybe less. Time to go, Eric said. He reached for a lever by the mooring winch. Cynthia shook her head. If we run onto the dock, they'll catch us. There's only one way out. She pointed to the helm console. It was still glowing, sea trial protocol authorized. The ship was fueled. The ballast tanks were trimmed. The engines had been kept warm for a decade. All it needed was a cast-off order. Eric didn't think twice. He released the stern line, then the bow. The Sea Shadow drifted free from its boneyard prison, a black silhouette sliding into the fog bank. He throttled the twin diesels to 3 knots bare steerage, and the ship answered with a throaty, muffled hum. The swath hull cut through the water without a ripple, its radar signature an almost perfect void. On the dock, the tactical team discovered the moorings loose. They raised their weapons, but there was nothing to shoot. The Sea Shadow had already become fog itself. As they cleared the harbor channel and turned toward open ocean, Cynthia opened the Sumerian files. The first image was a document dated September 10, 2001. It described a plan to use the Sea Shadow as a covert launch platform for an autonomous stealth interceptor, a drone that could track and engage surface targets without leaving a radio fingerprint. The program had been buried after a test flight ended with an unacknowledged collision. A civilian vessel, 5 lives lost, never reported. The Sea Shadow wasn't just an experiment. It was a witness to a crime the defense establishment had spent 20 years burying. And now, with the ship in their hands and the files on her drive, Eric and Cynthia were the only people who could tell the world. They aimed the bow into the night, engines barely above idle, leaving no wake, no noise, no trace. The Ghost had reclaimed the sea. By dawn, they were 160 miles offshore, running dark at 7 knots. Not a single radar contact had locked them. The Sea Shadow was a hole in the electromagnetic spectrum, exactly as designed. Cynthia worked the satellite link, uploading the Sumerian files to a digital dead drop shared with 3 major news outlets. The evidence was clear: a classified autonomous drone test, a civilian vessel sunk in 2001, and a corporate cover-up by a defense contractor that had kept this ship alive to hide the wreckage. But the tactical team wasn't finished. An encrypted message crackled through the Skydancer receiver. "We know you took the vessel. Return it to the boneyard and all charges will be dropped." Eric didn't answer. He turned the helm toward international waters. They'd be safer there, at least until the story broke. Then Cynthia's laptop pinged with an unexpected inbound connection, not from the dead drop, but from inside the ship's own hardened land. It was a message originating from a partition that had been sealed with a cryptographic key no human had touched in 20 years. The subject line read, "For the crew of IX-529, upon recovery of Sumerian data." It was a letter from the original project lead, a naval engineer named Dr. Alan Corley, written in 2003 and time-stamped for today's date. Corley wrote, "If you're reading this, the program didn't die, it just went asleep. Sumerian was only one node. There are 7 other ships in boneyards across 3 oceans, all networked, all waiting. You've unlocked the first. The others will wake when you transmit this key." Attached was a file containing coordinates and activation codes for 7 more stealth vessels, never decommissioned, never scrapped, just hidden exactly like the Sea Shadow. The Ghost wasn't alone. It was a fleet. The Sea Shadow, the ship the world thought was a failed experiment, was the master key to a silent navy that had been waiting in plain sight for 2 decades. Eric set the autopilot. Cynthia uploaded the letter. Then they pointed the bow toward the first coordinate, the black ship gliding into the morning mist, a ghost leading the way. The Sea Shadow was supposed to be a dead footnote, a dusty experiment in a naval museum, if it had survived at all. Instead, Eric and Cynthia uncovered a silent network of phantom warships, each one hidden in plain sight, each one a tomb of classified missions and buried truths. The question is no longer whether the Navy built stealth ships in secret. The question is why so many still sit waiting, fully fueled and linked by an encrypted handshake that was never deactivated. If a salvager and an architect could stumble onto a ghost fleet nobody was supposed to find, how many more programs are out there, hiding behind scrapped hulls and falsified manifests? We may never know the full scale of what lies dormant in the world's naval boneyards. But one thing is certain: the ghost has company, and the sea doesn't give up its dead easily. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories from the edge of classified history, subscribe and hit the bell. I'll see you on the next one.